Some years ago, the pollster George Barna asked a group of people a question, a really good question, as a matter of fact. The question was, what is the phrase you most want to hear? Think about that for a minute. What is the phrase you most want to hear? Well, the first answer, the top answer, probably won't surprise you. I love you. That's the phrase that most everybody wants to hear. We all want to be loved. We all want to hear that we're loved. The second may not be surprising either. I forgive you. Who among us hasn't done something that we regret, caused some harm, whether intentionally or unintentionally? We all need and seek forgiveness, and we need to hear it. I forgive you. But the third answer may be really surprising to you, as it was to me. And here's what people said they most want to hear. Dinner is ready. Now, there are a lot of us who love a good meal, but dinner is ready as one of the top 3 phrases that we most want to hear. I was surprised by that one. And yet, gathering around the table, sharing food together is important, isn't it? In the gospel reading for today, Jesus uses the imagery of bread as a sign of how important the table is, his table. I am the living bread that came down from heaven, he says. Whoever eats this bread will live forever, and the bread that I will give for the life of the world is my flesh. But it isn't only in today's gospel. If the image sounds familiar to you, it's because we hear it for 4 weeks in a row, the 6th chapter of the Gospel according to John. I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. Those who eat my flesh and drink my blood abide in me, and I in them. The one who eats this bread will live forever. Now that's a big claim for what may seem like a small meal that we Christians share. A wafer or a small piece of bread, a sip of wine. Indeed, those who heard Jesus and criticized this claim were quick to point out that the daily life-saving manna provided by God to their ancestors in the wilderness did not prevent death. It was not the bread that gave eternal life, even though it was bread that came down from heaven. I suppose one of the things this pandemic has taught us is that a meal is about far more than the number of calories a person consumes. One of the most difficult parts of this ordeal, for me at least, has been the limitations placed on gathering around a table. Thankfully, technology has helped us stay connected in other ways. Visits via Zoom across miles and even time zones, and all those ways we've stayed connected when it wasn't safe to gather in person. But oh, how I have missed sharing meals together. To sit around the table with extended family or close friends. When we think of meals in that way, we begin to see their real significance. The gathering of families where the recipes have been handed down from generation to generation, and the preparation and the taste connects us with our heritage. The stories that get told around a table of family or friends that remind us of what shapes us and gives us a sense of belonging. Relationships which had grown distant, even strained, getting renewed and repaired. You see, it's gathering around the table that helps us to know the stuff of which we are made when we gather as kin or as friends who are as close as and sometimes closer than family. And so it is with our community of faith as well. We've weathered these months when it has been unsafe to gather by staying connected in all sorts of ways. But there is still the yearning to gather around the table, to share bread and cup, because it reminds us of who we are and whose we are. We gather to tell the stories of our ancestors in faith, and we are formed by those stories. We hear the words and actions of Jesus as he invites us to follow, to come and see. We offer our prayers of thanksgiving for all that God has done for us, our prayers of intercession to ask God to guide and to provide. And we ask forgiveness for those ways we have fallen short, missed the mark, and done harm or failed to help. And we gather around a table where Jesus is the host who offers himself for the life of the world, for you and for me, for those whom we love and those who we struggle to care about, for those who deserve it and those who don't. We are all, every one of us, his welcome guests. I am the living bread, he says. I give myself for the life of the world. Abide in my love. I think George Barna nailed it with his question about what we most want to hear. And in this place, around the table, we hear it week after week. And we are invited not just to hear, but to share wherever it is that we go. What do you most want to hear? I love you. I forgive you. And dinner's ready.